This is called a blob top bottle. So it's a hand-blown bottle from the Equinox Spring Water Company, Manchester, Vermont. The Spring Works actually used to be up behind the Equinox Resort now. Actually, where the Equinox Spring Water Bottle Company Spring Works actually stood is now basically all the landscape debris from the resort. They kind of use it as a dumping ground, but it's right on the other side of the football field.
You reach the headquarters of the Manchester Historical Society by heading downstairs at the Manchester Community Library to their ground floor. Once there, you take a step into the past. Inside their archives room are numerous artifacts, photographs, images, and records from the town's more than 250-year-old history. The bound volumes of the Manchester Journal bump up against town reports and town clerk records, as well as a whole bunch of other pieces of the town's history, as curator Sean Harrington explains.
So the story of this trophy right here, this is the Manchester Tennis Club, dates to 1893. Was won by a member of the Reed family. The Reverend Albert C. Reed was the minister, the pastor at the Congregational Church, who took over for James Anderson, who was a long-serving pastor there. Their house actually just recently sold. Actually, was the home of Poppy Gall, and this was returned by a descendant of the Reed family. It was actually, she lived down in Boston, outside of Boston, and her mother's first husband was Merriman Reed, who was one of Albert Reed's sons, and he'd passed away at a young age. He's actually buried in Dellwood, but there was a box of Reed-related family items in her attic, and she dug this out and thought it was really terrific, and got in touch with first with Astrid Kilburn at the Equinox House, who was the concierge there, and she called us and she asked would we be interested in returning this tennis club trophy to Manchester, and I said absolutely. And since then, through Poppy Gall and her mother saved things, and we actually have pictures of the Reed family playing tennis out behind the house.
Volunteers help organize the information and artifacts that are donated to the Historical Society, which itself has been around since 1897. The group was formally incorporated the following year. For many years, the group was based at the old Mark Skinner Library, and when the new library opened in November of 2014, the Historical Society came with it. Frederica Templeton, the president of the Society, describes its operations.
What we have now is a brand new space, as you can see, in the Manchester Community Library, which is light and dry and clean, and we are thoroughly grateful to all of the supporters who have made this possible. And we are now in the process of doing the most important job for an archive or a collection, is to identify what we have and to put it into a database, a searchable database, so that we can share it. Because the purpose of the Historical Society is not only to preserve the past and the present, obviously, but also to make it available to people in the community and beyond. So obviously with the digital information age, we have many opportunities to share this, and we're planning to take up whatever chance we can to do so.
The town of Manchester has gone through several phases in its development as a town. A big turning point came with the arrival of regular train service in the 1850s.
But once the railroad arrived in 1852, everything changed. It opened up commerce. It opened up the ability for people to visit the area. Franklin Norvis had inherited the property, which is the Equinox Resort, the northern portion of the Equinox Resort. He'd inherited that from his father, Levi, which was just a general store and boarding house, and he kind of built, expanded upon it and made the Equinox House and opened it up for summer visitors. And he turned that one endeavor into really, one of the Manchester Development Association within the next 50 years, where it made Manchester truly a destination from all the metropolitan areas, especially New York, Boston, Philadelphia, Chicago. Of course, with the Chicago contingent that included Judge Mark Skinner, who was born and raised in Manchester, and of course one of the other famous sons of Chicago, so to speak, was Robert Todd Lincoln, who was Edward S. Isham's law partner, and that brought him here in 1900, and he eventually built Hildene around 1903 or 4. So it's really always been a destination, as far back as our recorded, good recorded history. We have a lot from 1850 to 1900, 1900 to 1950. Kind of a little bit of a dark ages between 1800 and 1850, because it was really just, we have a lot of militia rolls, and then we have a lot about the agriculture. Not a lot in between, and then when you get prior to 1800, a lot of it is Council of Safety records, because Vermont did play Manchester played a pretty vital part in those early meetings in the development of the United States. So.
The Historical Society holds meetings every month and is always looking for more members and volunteers. To join or find out more about the Society, visit their website at manchesterhistoricalsocietyvt.org. For the GNet TV News Project, I'm Andrew McKeever.